Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Parent Administrator panel here. This is the last session of our marathon 4-day open house for admitted students, and we are just so pleased that you have stuck around and joined us for this evening's discussion. I think that you're going to get a lot of really great information here. At least that's our goal. My name is Chris Dahlstrand. I serve as the Director for Communications and Visitor Engagement here at UCF in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, and I'm joined by an esteemed group of colleagues. They are administrators, really experts in their field from across the institution, and they're really here to help provide you with guidance and clarity on the next steps to get ready for your student to enroll at the university. So I hope this is a really engaging discussion. We're looking for a robust conversation tonight. No topics are off limits, so I encourage you to send those questions through the Q&A down at the center of your screen. We are going to go around the room real quick and do some introductions so that you know who's joining us today. Just for the sake of expedience, I think I will call on you one by one. And if you wouldn't mind giving us just a brief intro, and then we'll move into our questions and answers. Let's start with Stephen O'Connell. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening. My name is Stephen O'Connell. I'm the director of the Knights Major Exploration and Transition Center. We are an academic advising office for undeclared or major exploring students, but I'm also here tonight because I'll be able to answer basic academic advising questions for you.
Thank you, sir. It's good to see you, and thanks for being with us. Elizabeth Costello, you're up.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Elizabeth Costello. I'm the Director for Strategic Recruitment and External Relations here at Undergraduate Admissions, the office that many of you have been dealing with for the last few months as you've been going through the admissions process. And I'm here because your time with us is kind of wrapping up, and I'll be talking about some of the next steps as you move towards enrollment at UCF.
Thank you. Officer Witherspoon, sir, you are next.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Officer Witherspoon with the UCF Police Department, and I'll be here to talk about any safety concerns you may have for our police department on campus.
And thanks for joining us. We know that you're very busy, so we appreciate taking time out of your schedule for us.
No
Crystal,
problem.
you're up, please.
Hello, everybody. I apologize if my cat comes in the screen. I don't usually work from home, so since this is after hours, I'm here. But my name is Crystal Zavallo, and I am in marketing communications for the Student Health Center, which is the medical facility on campus.
Thank you. And we know that you are extremely busy.
Very much
and we
so.
really appreciate you being with us tonight. Chantel, please, you are up.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Chantel Carter. I am the Associate Director for the Office of Student Involvement, OSI for short, since we love acronyms here at UCF. And I'm here to help provide some insight as to what student activities and programming we have available for you.
And thank you for being here. Dr. Manzel, you are up.
Good evening. My name is Karima Mansell. I'm one of the Associate Directors in the Office of Student Financial Assistance, and I'm here to answer your questions about financing your students' education.
And I believe that you're also joined by Rick Colon in your office too. Rick, would you like to say hello?
Good evening. Hello, Rick Colon with the Office of Financial Assistance. I'm with Dr. Mansell here to assist with any financial aid questions.
Always a popular topic, so we appreciate you both being here. And then finally, Meredith, you're up.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Meredith Varner. I serve as an Associate Director for the Department of Housing and Residence Life here at UCF. And so I'm happy to speak to your questions about housing and the application process and all of that good stuff.
All right, well, thank you all very much. So those are the topics that we're generally going to be able to cover this evening for our parents and family members watching tonight. It's probably best when you keep your questions fairly general. Very specific questions that relate to your specific situation or to your specific student situation. Likely you're going to require a little bit of research and digging into perhaps addressing a very specific issue. So we would appreciate it if you would keep the questions as general as possible to give us an opportunity to provide a broad answer, but we are going to do our best to get to everything. We'll be with you for the next hour. Let's dive right in here. I've got a couple questions that I'd like to get out of the way before we get started. These are popular ones that many family members ask. They are things, though, that not everybody considers and thinks about. So, Stephen, I'd like to direct the first question to you, if I may. And that is, what is one of the things that students and families want to know? I'm sorry, one of the things that they do want to know is what to expect when making the transition from high school to UCF. So from an academic perspective, what are our expectations of students as they transition, as they make that transition?
Thanks, Chris. When we talk to students generally about making that transition from high school to college and being successful, is to really look at your college experience being different than your high school experience. That classes may be tougher, you may be more independent, those kinds of things. So we're really asking students to start really owning their academic experience and taking their courses very seriously, knowing that there's going to be a great deal of work outside of the classroom. So we generally say 2 to 3 hours for every hour you're in class, and to really take that to heart. And especially for students as they begin the transition, not that this audience, the students or the parents know that their students procrastinate, but procrastination does not work in college. You've got to keep on top of everything. And I always suggest that a great graduation gift is a planner for every student, so they can start writing things down before they get to college, during their orientation experience, and then when they meet with their academic advisor.
Thank you. That's really great advice. I've got a question for Meredith next. Meredith, UCF has done research regarding the connection between living on campus and a student's academic success, especially as it relates to retention and to graduation rates. Can you speak to some of the ways that housing and residence life on campus engages students and helps with their success both in and out of the classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So one of the things that housing really does right off the bat is help students get connected to the campus. And so we all know that UCF is a large university, and so that affords us a lot of awesome opportunities. Sometimes opportunity overwhelms us, right? There's so many things to do. And so what housing can help do is make that community smaller for our students. So we kind of zoom in a bit, if you will. So we zoom into, you're living in a particular community on campus that might be somewhere from 400 to 1,000 residents. Then you might be in a smaller building that's anywhere from 80 to 160 residents. And so then you've got your folks on your floor, 30 to 50 residents, that you really kind of zoom in and make that smaller community, make those connections. And that really helps our students begin to feel like they're part of the campus and have those friendships, those folks that they get to know and are hanging out with outside of the classroom. And so that, I think, really helps to connect them. We also work with our students on a residential curriculum. And so we absolutely know here at UCF that learning does not stop when you leave that classroom door. It continues. You're learning whether you are meeting with your RA to talk about some topics that they can help you discuss. You're learning when you're playing that midnight game of Uno in the floor lounge, with your mask on if you're with us right now, of course, but you're learning all the time. And so we really want our students to become global citizens. And so we have some guided things that we work with them on based on their development throughout their first year to really help them become global citizens and learn some of those things. And so we do that in a way that's not lecture style and not based like what you might see in the classroom, but really to help them make those connections, become more aware of themselves and those around them. And so we really find that that helps our students to get connected, and then thus enables them to do better academically, be more likely to persist to their second year, be more likely to graduate. And so we've found that to be quite successful with our students here. Now, all of that being said, that does not mean a student cannot be successful if they do choose to live at home. Some students cannot come onto campus housing, or they choose to stay at home or to live elsewhere. And so we do know that they can certainly continue to be successful there. So I don't mean to say that that's not the case. So for our students who are staying home or who are living off campus, they just need to make sure they're making those connections as well and finding those intentional opportunities to get involved on the campus.
Thank you. Officer Witherspoon, let's talk a little bit about safety. It's perhaps cliche to say it, but safety really is the highest priority for us, for our students at UCF. Talk to us a little bit about some of the things that your department does on campus to make sure that students are safe.
Certainly. One of the things that we do is, we try to keep a presence at all times. Obviously, we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We are a certified accredited law enforcement agency, just like Orlando Police Department, Miami Police Department. A lot of times parents and students don't realize, yes, we are real police officers. We're certified. We take all the training, we attend the police academy. So we're here 24/7, 365 days a year. And the students are our first priority to assure them that this is a very safe environment. We offer all types of programs. We have a self-defense class that, we're doing virtually right now. We hope to go back to in-person. We have a mobile app that's available on our website that you can go to, where they can download like a safety walk type thing. So there's all type of things that we offer. You can contact us at our community partnership office or on our website, and we can answer questions specifically.
All right, thank you, sir. Dr. Mansell, there are probably a lot of people on the call or on the Zoom who have done what they need to do for their financial aid, but can you talk about some of the things that they might need to know about specifically for subsequent years, like submitting the FAFSA and doing things like that? Just good housekeeping items and reminders and tips.
Sure. For financial aid, one of the things I always like to remind parents is that the FAFSA is an annual application, and we do have a priority filing date at the university. That priority filing date is December 1st of each year. The FAFSA becomes available on October 1st, before the fall of the upcoming academic year. So for example, the 2021-22 FAFSA, which became available in October 2020, it is for the fall 2021 year through summer 2022. So with that note, if we have students who are coming into the summer term, it's also important for those students to do two FAFSAs coming in. And that first FAFSA would be the 2020-21 FAFSA, and that will cover the summer term. The FAFSA is simply the first step in the financial aid process. It helps our office to determine the type of aid for which a student qualifies. There may be additional steps the student has to take to continue the processing of their financial aid. Some students are selected for a process called verification. Verification entails the student, and for dependent students, the parent providing additional documentation to our office to continue the processing of financial aid. Items needed for the processing of financial aid are found on a student's to-do list in the MyUCF student portal. So we encourage our students to view the to-do list regularly, at least every other week is normally what I like to tell students, because financial aid is fluid and we get updated information. And as we get that updated information, there may be additional documents we need to continue the processing.
Thank you so much. Crystal, let's address the elephant in the room, the question that's probably on many, many families' minds right now, and that is, given that COVID-19 is probably going to be with us into the summer and fall, can you give us any sense of what those terms are going to look like from a health and safety standpoint?
Right. So as we know, vaccinations, the process of rolling them out across our country is going strong. UCF actually starts a mass vaccination event tomorrow for all of our faculty and staff on campus. When we roll out to students, that will determine on Florida government whenever that goes. But basically, as even with our vaccinated population, you can expect things such as the the mask policy, social distancing policies, those things will stay in place, as well as like the COVID self-checker, students being aware of their own symptoms, et cetera. But UCF is planning on returning to as normal of operations in fall as possible. Of course, all of this is flexible, things can change, but given the current trajectory with the positive rates of where they are, and they're going down and they have been declining for over a month now in Florida, as well as our vaccination rates are going up. So as long as that trend continues, then we would be on track to have more in-person classes in the semester. So in regards to health and safety, of course, that means we're still gonna be encouraging students to hopefully they still wanna wash their hands. And they're still gonna be wearing their masks and being aware of sanitizing things. And our staff, of course, UCF is not letting our guard down. We will continue to armor up across campus to make sure our students stay safe.
I think that's music to many, many ears.
Many, many.
Chantel, I'd like to go to you next. Can you discuss some of the events that our freshman students will participate in for the fall 2021 kind of kickoff or welcome programs? What types of social activities can they expect to be offered during those first few weeks?
Well, Chris, I'm glad you asked. I'm going for a shameless plug. Our office has the honor and I guess the privilege and the pleasure of bringing the university's official welcome week to campus. It's called Pegasus Palooza. It has a plethora of various events that are going to be available for students throughout the entire week. It typically opens up with a convocation, and that's like a great, fantastic welcome celebration for all of our freshman students to try to be together in a space and in a place, and they are officially welcomed by administrators, typically the president, VPs, other leadership team members are present and available to just extend a warm welcome to all of the freshman students who have decided to come to this fine institution and make this their home away from home for as long as they need to in order to obtain their degrees. We also have other events that we are looking or trying to make available during that week, such as the movie. We are trying to also bring out a comedian, possibly a concert, depending on what's going on. So it's also has its opening night, which really focuses on all of the 600 plus registered student organizations. So it's an opportunity for there to be some tabling by our student organizations, for them to be present and available for our incoming students to be able to connect with them, be able to potentially join their organizations, find out what they can get involved with specifically with these RSOs, registered student organizations, and really try to immerse themselves within the campus. And I think alluding to what Crystal said in regards to what's going on with the trends, all of this obviously is contingent upon the ability of the state to really continue to move forward with these positive numbers, the rates of the infections going down, the number of vaccines increasing. So our university is ready to pivot if we need to. We will probably provide some programming that has a mixed mode of accessibility, where it's available in person with guidelines in place, CDC regulations in place, the mask, the hand washing, hand sanitizing, making sure the concentric circles are there so that people know what spaces they are allowed to be in, and then also possibly streaming things at the same time. So for those that may not want to be in person or are not able to attend in person, they have the option of participating and really being a part of these experiences, both virtually and also possibly in person. So it really will depend. You know, we are all, I think, striving to be in as much of a normal state as possible for the fall semester. We understand the importance of being able to engage and connect with others. And so we are working our hardest to make sure that the experience we have for this upcoming fall semester is dynamic, but also safe at the same time.
Thank you. Elizabeth, you know, we've worked together for a long time, so we know sometimes some of the habits that students can fall into around this time of year. So it's common for students to think, well, I've been offered admission. There's nothing more for me to do. I don't need to talk to that office. And emails go into the junk bin or the you know, I'll read this later folder. That's a mistake, because there are a lot of things that students to need to do in order to confirm their enrollment, in order to actually start at UCF for summer and fall. Can you talk to us, excuse me, about some of those things that are on that next steps list? What are the critical things that students and parents need to be looking to do in the coming months?
Absolutely. We're excited to have all of you joining us soon. And we know that this is a very busy time wrapping up your senior year and your students' senior year and getting ready for graduation. But there are definitely things that need to happen to make those a smooth transition for your student. And that's definitely something that we want to make as smooth as possible. My first piece of advice, we communicate by email. So please read your emails, read all of them that we send you. It's really, really important to be understanding of what we're sending, because many different offices will start sending you information. At undergraduate admissions, we have the enrollment deposit, which holds the place in the class for you, and that is, or for your students, and that is due on by May 1st. So that is going to be communicated various times throughout the next several months. Then there's orientation and signing up for orientation. There'll be information that the first year experience office will be sending out about getting ready for orientation and what your students need to have prepared to come to the virtual events throughout the summer when they're going to be doing orientation. Things like the immunization forms. Critically important that immunization forms be completed and submitted and uploaded to our Student Health Center, because that can prevent your student from registering for their classes at orientation. So they want to make sure that they have all of that done prior to when they're coming. Residency for tuition purposes, please have your student check their MyUCF to see if they're in a pending status. If you're a Florida resident and you're in that pending status, that means we don't have all the documentation we need to prove Florida residency, and that will impact the tuition bill. It will show that you're a non-Florida resident until that is shown and that we're able to verify that. So those are going to be important things that we're going to be sending to your student, and have them, read those emails that come in. And then the final wrap-ups is we need final transcripts. We've set deadlines for final transcripts to come in. So by June 30th, if your student is starting in the summer, we must have received their final official high school transcript. And then if they're starting in the fall, July 15th is the deadline to have their final official transcript to undergraduate admissions. This year, as hopefully most of you know, the Spark is our self-provided academic record, but we do need those final official transcripts with the graduation date and all the senior grades, so that we can verify that all the information that was submitted on the self-provided academic record was the same as is on the transcript, so that we can finalize the file. So that's going to be really, really important as well. In addition, if your students are taking any dual enrollment courses, we need those official transcripts. We will also need any AP scores, IB, exam results, all of those things. And that is not only in the admission letter that we've sent out to your student, but then also it's going to be in their portal. It's also going to be in various emails that we're sending. So biggest piece of advice that I can give is make sure that they continue to read everything we send them, because it's all important.
It is, and you're making my head spin, and I understand how this all works. That's a lot of things to remember. It's a lot to do in a very short period of time. So as Elizabeth said, I'm going to reiterate it one more time. Read the emails, use the resources, the portal, the website. There's a site for admitted students right on the upper tab of the undergraduate admissions site, and it contains a checklist, a next steps list of everything that you and your student need to worry about and do. So let's go to some of the questions that have come in through the Q&A. Somehow we managed to be getting questions in the chat. I've disabled that function. I'd like them in the Q&A just so that we have some folks that are behind the scenes who are also answering questions, and they are typing in responses out. So if you wouldn't mind putting them there instead of in the chat, but we're gonna tackle some that came in through the chat. This is kind of a two-parter. Meredith, the first part is going to be directed to you, and then anyone else who cares to chime in with a second question, you're welcome to. So we have a student who's coming, and hopefully many here watching us today who are coming from out of state. And they're deciding between two schools, UCF and someone else. How do we know that there will be a room for her should she decide to come to UCF? She has not finalized housing yet. So that's part one. And part two is what types of activities, programs, initiatives, support are there for out-of-state students to help them transition to UCF?
Sure. So those are some really great questions, and I may have to ask you to remind me halfway through to make sure I get all of that. But so let me just say, when you decide to come to UCF, I'm just kidding. Of course, we know it's hard to decide, and you have a lot to take into consideration as you're choosing what university to attend. But what I will tell you is, for students that are in the situation of trying to decide between the best university, UCF, and perhaps some other university, I recommend they go ahead and apply for housing right away as soon as they're offered admission. We unfortunately do not have space for every single incoming freshman that Elizabeth staff is going to admit for us. And so we do reserve the vast majority of our space for incoming freshmen though. So what happens is you go ahead and apply for housing. That gets your space in line, that gets you a guaranteed spot if you do decide to come here. The date that you apply for housing also informs the date that you pick your room assignment. So the earlier you apply for housing, the earlier you will get to select your room assignment in May, June, and July when we do online room selection. So it's really important to get that application in. Now, when you apply for fall housing, you will make a $250 prepayment. That $250 then comes off the fall rent when you join us in the fall. If you cancel before May 1st, you are able to get $150 of that back. So essentially you're risking that $100 to get your space in line for housing. And so that's what I recommend for folks that are trying to decide right now during this March to May timeframe, is to go ahead and apply for housing so that you know that you can get a space. So that would be my advice there. If the student has more questions about that, or the parent has more questions about that, definitely reach out to us. You can give us a call. Our number is 407 UCF home. We answer the phone Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and we'd be happy to talk through that with you. Or you can email us at housing@ucf.edu. And then I think the other part of the question was, what supports and things do we have for students who are out of state? And so we do have a really robust support structure for all of our students. We have resident assistants that are specially selected and trained upperclassmen who go through a lot of intensive training to learn about all the different UCF resources, to learn how to support our students. And so there are those folks either on each floor or each building, depending on the size of the space, and they will reach out to connect with you. They're going to help plan events and activities. They're going to help you and your roommates do a roommate agreement, so you can figure out, who's taking out the trash and how often should we be washing the dishes, and what temperature is it a good idea to set our air conditioning at, and all of those things that you need to talk through. They're going to be there to help support you. And then we have all of our other wonderful UCF resources, like our student involvement and other events and activities are going on. And our RAs really try to make sure that we're helping connect our students to those things to get them supported and involved on campus.
Thank you. I think, Stephen, this might be a question that you can answer or hopefully try to. We've got a lot of folks who are asking about orientation, and specifically when it comes to the summer term, some concern about that being a little too close to the start of summer when orientations are actually taking place. So how would you go about addressing that? Are there things that students and families can prepare for so that they're ready to kind of hit the ground running? That's part one. Part two is talk to us about when class selection takes place.
Great. So we always want our students prepared by the time they attend orientation. And so you'll be getting outreach from your specific college, if you have a declared major, or from our office prior to you attending orientation. You all will be enrolled in a web course too that will have to be completed by the time you attend orientation. So it gives you a lot of the information prior to you attending orientation and get you prepared. We talk about what your high school was like. We ask about your dual enrollment credit or college credit, all those kinds of things. So the more information we have by the time you attend orientation, the better off. And then the day of orientation, you really spend the day with your respective college. So they're going to give you information on your major, required courses. During every orientation program, there are times to work with an academic advisor to work on your schedule for summer and or fall or both semesters. So you are given that time. Orientation is not just one day. So we always say, keep connecting with us after your orientation experience. And I know there's a lot of questions about class offerings, especially in the summer and fall. I've been looking at the system since it opened on Monday as far as the variety of courses that are going to be offered. Just like other people have said, we're really going to try to make fall as normal as possible. So, you know, getting face-to-face classes. In the summer, there's going to be a variety of classes, including face-to-face. And so one thing we do as academic advisors when assisting students with their schedules is to explain, this is the way this course is going to be delivered. So all that information will be provided for you during your orientation program.
Terrific. Excuse me. So Karima, if you wouldn't mind talking to us a little bit about the financial aid, I'm probably using incorrect lingo here, but the award notification process. Where are we with regard to that right now for students and families who may be waiting on information? What can they expect to receive if they have not gotten their information yet? And when might that be coming?
Sure. So financial aid award summaries were sent starting on the 1st of March. So a large wave for our first time incoming students received their financial aid award summaries. The award summaries are essentially an estimate of the type of financial aid the student can anticipate receiving in the upcoming 2021-2022 term. With the award summaries, they are, again, just estimates. However, they do provide students with what we are anticipating they will receive. For students who have a valid FAFSA on file, we're going to determine their federal financial aid eligibility as well as their eligibility for need-based institutional programs and state-based institutional programs. So that's where the FAFSA comes into play. For our students who are anticipating receiving the Bright Futures Scholarship, we do utilize the information on file with the university to estimate if a student will be receiving Bright Futures. So again, the summaries are for planning purposes. As the semester gets closer, more solidified information comes in. We are then able to determine if a student is actually a Bright Futures scholar and update their Bright Futures accordingly with the information from the Florida Department of Education. One of the things I definitely want to remind our students and our families about is that the federal financial aid application, or the FAFSA, determines a student's eligibility for federal grants. It is required to receive federally funded student loans. However, the Bright Futures Award is not tied to the FAFSA. So students who are in their senior year of high school, they want to make sure they do the Florida financial aid application. That application is what starts the Department of Education in the state of Florida to start to look at a student and determine whether or not they're eligible to receive Bright Futures in the upcoming terms. I'd also mention, Chris, that students should monitor their to-do list and submit any documentation. Most items on the to-do list do not prevent a student from receiving a financial aid package, but they do prevent the continued processing of financial aid. So if there's anything outstanding on a student's to-do list that pertains to financial aid, I would encourage the student to go ahead and submit that as soon as possible. Please allow between 5 and 10 business days for that item to be removed from the to-do list. And depending on what the item is, it does take some additional time for the item to be processed. For example, verification for the upcoming year may take anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks from when the student submits the last documentation.
That's great, great information to have. And my next question kind of relates to timelines and deadlines. As you were just referencing, it's a little bit of an adjustment sometimes for students when they're, you know, kind of going out on their own to get accustomed to deadlines and to sort of instinctively sometimes know what to do. So it's a very general question, but I like the question. So it's open for everybody who has a deadline or a date that family members need to be aware of coming up. What are some important dates that we should be aware of? That's the question. If you've got a looming deadline or something coming up soon, give our family members an opportunity to jot those down and maybe put them into a calendar.
So Chris, for the Office of Student Financial Assistance, one of the dates that students should remember each year is that If you have outstanding to-do list items, we ask that students submit those documents by May 30th each year. That helps us in expeditious financial aid processing and increases the likelihood of a student getting a disbursement in the first few disbursement runs of a given semester. So for the upcoming fall term, that's May 30th of this year.
I had answered it previously, but I will also give that May 1 deadline. That is when our enrollment deposit is due, confirming your place in the class. Once the enrollment deposit is paid for your student, they can then register for an orientation session. So that's important to get in, and students have until May 1 to do that. That's our big deadline in admissions.
And I would say, just to echo that, you do need to have your enrollment deposit in by May 1 in order to keep a housing agreement. And so we will check to see after May 1 who has a housing agreement, who has not paid their enrollment deposit. And we will look to reach out to see if you're coming or not, so that we can ensure that we're making enough space for folks who do want housing. So that's going to be really important. I think also I mentioned a little bit before, May 1 is when the housing cancellation fee goes up. So that's really a good time to decide and make sure that you do or don't want housing. You do have to cancel if you decide that you don't want housing with us for some reason.
Crystal, could you touch real quickly on the importance of getting those immunization records into us, and what happens when they're not on file?
So it's very important to get those immunization forms done before you go to orientation, because when those are not on file, your student's not going to be able to enroll for the classes that they need. So it is all digital. We're on a new system now, so it's processed even faster than it has in years past, which is great news. But yeah, so it's important to make sure you have those immunization records on file. And it's one packet. You can download it, finish it, upload it, and again, make sure it's done before you get to orientation, and also do it at least a week in advance, because it does sometimes could take some time to process. You want to make sure that that is done and you won't have any issues when you go into your enrollment appointment. Sorry.
It's all good.
She's not used to me working from home, so.
Clearly I can hear her, so she's very agitated about something. Get off this Zoom call. Chantel, can you talk to us about Parents Weekend a little bit? What is that, and do we anticipate having one in person next fall?
That's a great question. We typically call it Family Weekend, and we're not really sure, to be completely transparent. We're not really sure exactly how the fall semester is going to fall and how it's going to roll out, no pun intended, but we would like for that to happen. We typically have that as a partnership event that we have done in the past with first year experience. And so there's a lot of things that are changing, a lot of moving parts. And so we would like to be able to try to have a family weekend. Typically it's around the September timeframe. We try to have it be in partnership with athletics and a potential football game, because that's a big activity that can take place during that time. It's also a great partnership that has in the past happened and occurred with the Alumni Association, the foundation for the university, because it is viewed as a large community engagement type of event where people can come back, so students can have their families come back and be with them, but it's also an opportunity for the alumni to come back and just be with our community, because oftentimes alumni send their students and their children to the university because they have a fantastic experience here at UCF. So it truly does become a family affair. And so it's a little bit early for us in the decision stage as to what that will look like and when exactly that will be, but we're hopeful that that could be something that can also be available for this upcoming fall semester.
Thank you. Officer Witherspoon and Meredith, this is a question for both of you to address. What kinds of security measures are in place? The question really relates specifically to the residence halls, but I'd like to hear more broadly about generally on campus, what kind of security measures we have to keep students safe.
I'll begin with that. Like I said, we're here 24/7, 365 days a year. So we encourage our students that if you see something, say something. And believe it or not, a lot of people, we do get a lot of phone calls. which is a very good thing. Our students are engaged. Also faculty, staff members, anybody. So that's the first thing. If you see something, say something. Crime-wise, we're not the busiest, so we do have a lot of time. You'll see officers walking around. We're constantly out there. The number one thing in safety is having a presence. So, and we also like students to reach out to us. We have a sub-office where I'm located in the student union, which is the center of campus. We get students that walk in pretty much every single day at this point, asking questions if they have a concern about something. So we're very approachable. Like I said, crime-wise, we're not the busiest, which is the way we want to keep it. But the safety protocols basically is going to come down to, especially if we get back to normal, there's a lot of people all times of the night walking around campus day and night. So even at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a lot of students out there. And there's always safety in numbers. But the number one thing is we're here, we're on patrol if you need us. It's an emergency. Obviously, you call 911. And, I say that's obvious, but sometimes young kids, they don't do those commercials anymore or public service announcements for kids anymore. But it is, you call 911 because students will call their parents first. So that's one of the things, look, call 911, we're here. Our response time is going to be very quick because, as I said, our campus is 2.5 miles in circumference. So number one, call us. If you see us walking around, reach out to us, talk to us. We're in the student union. You see a cop anywhere, we're very approachable. So we believe in community policing. We're very approachable, we're very open. So we will keep our students safe, but if you see something, say something, and we'll do something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would echo, we really encourage our residents to do that exact same thing. And we try to partner very well with our police department here on campus. In terms of security features within the housing on campus, the first line of defense kind of is your lockable doors. And so there are going to be 2 lockable doors, in some case 3, between your student's bed and the outside world. Now you'll notice they'll say lockable, not locked, right? If they prop their door open with an old shoe, that door is no longer a security measure. If they prop the door to their building open with a brick, then that is no longer a security measure. So we really encourage our students to make sure they're keeping those lockable doors locked. And if they see somebody that's not supposed to be there, they let someone know. All of our key access is on the student's ID card to get into the building or into the suite or apartment. And so they will use the card reader on the outside of the door that will scan the mag stripe on their student ID card that is programmed specifically for them to be able to get into the space that they need to be able to get into. It will also use a 4-digit passcode that is assigned to the student. So they will need to both swipe and put in the 4-digit code. And so that is a dual measure of security in case the student were to drop their ID somewhere and someone finds Meredith's ID and they know Meredith lives in building 108 in Hercules, they still have to have my 4-digit PIN to be able to get into the door. So you're going to swipe and put in your PIN to get in the door. And then you're also going to swipe and put in your PIN to get into your suite or apartment. And then in the case where you have a specific bedroom within that unit, you have a hard key to get into that bedroom. And so we do try to make sure that our locks are a really robust system to keep that safe for our students. We have RAs who are on call from 5 p.m. until midnight every night that circulate throughout the facilities. There are eyes and ears to make sure that things are going well. I know our UPD is constantly patrolling. We have staff in our offices 24/7. And so there is always someone there that's able to help our students. And so if it doesn't rise to the level of a 911 emergency, there's a non-emergency police number, and there's also our community offices that are available. There are then blue lights all over campus, which is a fantastic thing that's there so that if you can't access your cell phone, you have the blue light, you can just hit real quickly to be able to get directly to the police department. And then our campaigns to really educate students and do things to make sure that they know those things like Officer Witherspoon was saying, see something, say something, and let us know. We really try to work hard on that.
Thank you. Stephen, we got a question here about FERPA, and I don't know that many folks know what that is. Can you explain FERPA very briefly? What is it? How does it work? And then talk to us a little bit about the importance of having conversations with students before they go off to college and setting expectations about what information needs to be shared, how to share that with regard to classes and grades and all of that stuff that once they become a student, we sometimes have trouble talking to parents about.
Sure. FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, passed in 1973. So It is a law that we abide by, in the fact that we cannot share information with family members about the student unless the student has given us permission. So if, for example, a family member can't call and say, is my student going to class, or what did they get in this class, in their psychology class, we are not able to share that information. One thing we do as academic advisors, though, is we talk about the importance of open communication, just like what you said, Chris. I always tell students, like, before you start your college experience, have those conversations with your family members to determine how much they want to know, how much you want to tell them, and really make that decision before they start their college experience. One thing that we always say is that just be honest with them. Let them know what they're, what's happening. As an academic advisor, oftentimes we do have students that will come into our office and say, I'm not doing as well as I may have been doing in high school. I don't know how to share that information with my family members. So we give them pointers as far as how to have those conversations. As academic advisors, we're more than happy then to be included in those conversations. So if we have the student's permission that we can speak to family members, we'll be present for that too, to have those kinds of conversations, because we're able to sort of give a balanced look at it as far as like, well, if this is the situation, these are some of the outcomes and these are some of the solutions to that too. So we really encourage the students and the parents and family members to really say, what are the things that we're going to share, and then determine how that's going to be shared too. Is that through text? Is that through phone calls, emails, all those kinds of things? But knowing that you still have the ability to contact people at the university, we may not be able to give you specifics until we have the student's permission.
Thank you. So I've got a question here about when freshman students arrive on campus, and I want to guess that probably relates to students who are going to be living on campus. So Meredith, is that a question that you're able to answer for students coming in summer and fall who choose to live on campus? When do they typically start moving?
Sure thing. Yeah, so I can tell you in a typical year, move-in would start the Friday before classes start. So if classes start on a Monday, then the Friday prior, we have a large move-in weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it's usually quite busy, but we get people through the lines pretty quickly and they get moved in and it's exciting and all of that. That being said, COVID has changed that reality this past year and may continue to do so as we move forward. And so we have not yet determined when fall 2021 move-in is going to start exactly, because we're waiting to see what kind of testing requirements do we need to have? Will everyone be vaccinated at this point? And so that will then inform how big of groups we can gather and how many people we can move in a particular day in a particular building. Will it be okay to be in elevators together or not? And so obviously that guidance is going to move and change as we've seen it do over the past year. So I would say typically they start that Friday, but it may be occurring sooner as we, or earlier than that, as we may need to move people in a more socially distant manner. So we would update our information on our website about that. We would email it to the students. It is highly likely you will have to schedule your move-in with us to let us know when you'll be coming out of the available dates. So that's kind of somewhat of an answer, but also a TBD, and definitely keep an eye on our website and email communication as we get that out and get that information. It would probably be at some point in the summer that we would have that more specific information for you.
Thank you. There are a number of, as you know, we can expect for there to be a number of questions relating to COVID. So the one question is, what is summer going to look like? We have, an email from the president or the provost that came out recently that says we're likely going to make a very concerted effort to go back to whatever normal is for the fall semester. What about summer? Do we have any idea what summer will look like? And how do we plan to address the question of large lecture style classrooms? Will there still be some socially distancing, physical distancing taking place? Is anyone able to address those types of questions?
I can
Crystal?
give just to my understanding. Of course, I don't know all of the policies on the academic side, but I do know that the plan for summer is to kind of continue as we are in spring. with just increasing the number of in-class or in-person classes. Still not fully there, so there still will be both options, just moving in that direction. In regards to the like fully capacity classrooms and lecture halls, to my knowledge, for summer, UCF is maintaining all of our social distancing policies, mask policies, etc. So we shouldn't see classrooms, our lecture halls of 450 students, etc., completely filled yet. All these type of things could change. I mean, it is still early in the year, but the current plan, to my knowledge, as far as like, again, the health side of it, is that the current policy as is, as far as social distancing, classroom capacities, masks, etc., will continue through summer.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So there's a question here about visiting campus. Elizabeth, can you talk to us a little bit about how families can do self-guided tours, and is that even possible right now? We know that in-person are suspended still, but when do we think those might come back, and what can students and families do in the meantime?
We are working closely, as we have for the past year, with health and safety on campus, because that is our most important priority, is to make sure everybody stays healthy and stays safe. So right now we are not offering campus tours. However, we do have a wide variety of online and virtual opportunities to speak with our students, to do campus tours online, to have, so it's really a plethora of opportunities to really get a feel for the university and our students, and get those questions answered that your students really want answered before they make their final decision, or they have made their final decision and they just want to be able to be reassured about it. So encourage them to go to our website, our undergraduate admissions website, which is admissions.ucf.edu. And there's opportunities for all of those things, the virtual tours, virtual panels. There's also an opportunity, if you do have specific questions, we're offering virtual appointments with our recruitment staff that are able to virtually get with you and your family and answer all those questions that may come up, because we know it's a tough time. We know this now is when those real questions are coming into your head and you need to get those answered, because May 1 is coming up and summer and fall is coming up and you want those answered. So we are here to do that. So please reach out to us. As soon as we are able to offer safely campus tours, we will be posting that on our all of our social media platforms, as well as our website. I don't have an exact date at this point of when that will be, but we definitely will make sure that everybody knows about it as soon as it's available. We cannot wait to welcome you all on campus again.
Thank you. Officer Witherspoon, can you talk a little bit about the UCF alert system and whether parents have access to get those text messages? And if so, how can they sign up for them?
The parents don't have access to that anymore. They're going to have to monitor the regular UCF site, which will be the same alerts. That was something that used to be controlled by emergency management. So they made us aware that, that's no longer being done. But we do have the UCF mobile app where they can virtually follow their students. If they download the app and they both download it, then they can virtually follow them on another destination, with with a real-time map. So that's something that they can definitely do. But if they go on our website, which is police.ucf.edu, and download our page, then they can get that app. And this way they'll be able to virtually go with their students to different places where they can see where they're going, in real time.
Thank you. So anyone who would like to chime in, you're welcome to. Of course, we would love for every new student to experience living on campus, and I think that Meredith laid out some very compelling reasons to do that, but we recognize that that's not for everyone. So is there any advice that anyone would care to give for a student who's starting at the university but will be living somewhere off campus, transportation wise, engagement wise? What are some tips and advice that we can provide?
I'll say something about that. The most important thing, if you're living off campus, is to practice, safety. Things should be taught at home. Be careful who you speak to. Let somebody know where you're going. Don't be walking by yourselves at nighttime. If you're gonna do things together. So, off campus, a lot of places right across the street, traffic on Alafaya is very, it's a lot of cars all time, day and night. That's always a big concern. So basically, our tips are going to be, stay out of the bars if you're too young to drink. And if you are of age, be very careful in what you do. But it's the same things you've been taught at home, but we got to reinforce those things every single semester with every student is to, practice safety by doing all the things that you've been taught, which is be aware of your surroundings at all times. That is the most important thing in any safety is be aware of your surroundings, know where you are at all times, and let people know where you are. And if you do decide to go out, we understand freshmen want to have a good time, especially, but do things in moderation. Please, practice safety, watch where you're walking, know who your friends are. And if you have a problem, call us, call your parents, call somebody. Don't feel that you're out there on an island by yourself.
Thank you.
I can
Anyone
also
else care to
chime in.
Go ahead.
Many moons ago, I won't say when, I don't want to date myself. I was a UCF student who never did have the opportunity to live on campus. And I think it's really important for students to think about the proximity of where they are residing off campus, because that helps you to be actively involved on campus. And I think that even if you don't live on campus, being active, getting involved with registered student organizations, and then also because I wear the financial aid hat, proper financial planning, being prepared to pay your rent, thinking about how disbursement aligns with your rent. For example, we disperse the second week of classes in a given semester. That means January's rent can't really be dependent on your spring disbursement. So you need to think about those types of things. So I think proper planning, the proximity of where your apartment is on campus or near campus, and then the transportation, we do have shuttles that are that run in the UCF area. Many of the college style living apartments in our area, we have shuttles to those apartments. But again, just because you're not on campus, if you don't get that opportunity, does not mean that you cannot have a robust first year experience. Of course, we recommend being on campus to as many students as possible, but we recognize not everyone will get that opportunity.
I'd like to piggyback that endorsement from Karima about the involvement piece. You do not have to be an on-campus living student to be an involved student. I think it just means you need to be intentional about the type of connections you want to make. And there are a number of RSOs that you can become affiliated with, over 650 plus different student organizations that are available for students to join, as well as student-led agencies, student initiatives, student programs. And so we at the university have a lot of options for our students to be able to connect and engage with. So the students do not have to feel as if there is nothing for them. That's why there is so much available. That is why there are so many options. And even within our office, we have a program called the Knight's Quest Consultation Program, where students can actually reach out and schedule an appointment with another student to find out what are my involvement options, what can I really connect with. And it has nothing to do with where you reside and where you live. And so we just want students to understand you do not have to come to this university and feel as if you are alone. That is the opposite of what you should be feeling. And we are doing what we're doing, and we're here because we are making sure you don't feel alone. We want you to feel as if this is an extension of your family. And so that is why we encourage you to get connected, to stay involved. Please reach out to our office. The university has some great resources, and we can help you get connected to those resources. We are, again, the Office of Student Involvement, osi.ucf.edu. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we will get you plugged into this place. This is an amazing place to be, and I encourage everyone on this call, if you haven't decided yet, please really consider UCF your place. I am also an alum of this institution, and it has helped me to be the person that I am today. So I encourage you, come to UCF. You won't regret it.
What a ringing endorsement. So we have time for one more question, and I apologize to everyone. We're going to keep you just a couple minutes past our scheduled end time here, but I think this is an important one. So Dr. Mansell, if you would address some information about award notification for us to end the night.
Sure, thank you, Chris. I did notice that there are some families indicating that they did not receive their 2020-2021 award summaries, and I just want to speak to why that may be happening. So one thing is you want to make sure that you have a valid federal financial aid application on file. That's the FAFSA that includes UCF school code, which is 003954. Additionally, I encourage students to look at their student demographic information in the MyUCF portal. When completing the online application for admissions to the university, you don't necessarily have to include your social security number. And that's fine for admissions, but in order to connect your financial aid information to your student account, a valid social security number must be on file with the university. So I would encourage students to visit their MyUCF portal, look in the demographics section, and look at what we call the national ID. You want to check that the national ID is one, your actual social security number, because there have been times when students transpose those numbers on the application. And two, if you see all X's where the national ID is listed, that means there is not a valid social security number on file with the university. And that then means that we need that information in order to load your FAFSA and to be able to bring in your financial aid information. So I just wanted to make those two notes. And also if a student was recently admitted, so if you were admitted in the last 2 weeks or so, it is possible we are preparing your financial aid file for the upcoming year, and we are sending subsequent award summaries at least every other week. So I wanted to share that as well.
Thank you. So we have arrived at the end of our program today. So I would like to thank all of our panelists, but especially a big thank you to you, to the family members and parents who have been so supportive of your students through their college search and application journey. We know that it doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. We're so looking forward to welcoming your student to UCF. And we just really appreciate the time that you took to join us today. I hope that you got a lot of your questions answered. We were not able to get to everything. So I did put our email address in the chat. It's UA Events, stands for Undergraduate Admissions Events. And that is the email address that we use when we put on events. We will be able to go into this email account and prioritize any questions that come in, and we'll get them to the appropriate area. We realize that they're probably not all for our office. So if there's something for health services or something for OSI or for financial aid, we'll make sure that it gets to someone and that those questions do get answered for you. So please feel free to follow up with us through that email address, uaevents@ucf.edu. So thank you again so much. Be safe. And as we close out everything, go Knights, charge on.